As Jean said, I'm Liz Keith, and I'm the National Programs Director with Pro Bono Net. I'm joined today by my colleague Taylor Getzinger, one of our project managers, and we are a national nonprofit that partners with legal aid organizations and community serving partners to develop digital tools to increase access to legal help for underserved communities. And we have been working with the state and Legal Aid of Nebraska for about the last 2.5 years to develop, pilot, and support the rollout of the legal risk detector that we'll be talking about today in Nebraska. And this has been one of the most, I'd say, fun and impactful implementations of the risk detector that I've been involved with. We benefited from some really wonderful feedback from AON and ANOA during the pilot stage, and in our trainings that we did last year that we've been able to kind of incorporate. And I'm just really excited to do this refresher today. So for our agenda, we're going to just provide a recap of the project background, who's involved, and the pilot results. We'll talk about what the risk detector is and how it can help the clients that you're serving and engaging with every day. Then Taylor will do a demo, a walkthrough of the risk detector itself. We'll talk about a few recommended practices when using the tool with older adults, and then we'll open it up for feedback, questions, and discussion. But we really welcome your questions and comments as we go. If there's something that's unclear, that you have a question about, or that you have an idea on, please feel free to just throw that into the chat or jump in, and we're happy to pause on that. So by way of background, this project began as a partnership with DHHS State Unit on Aging, Pro Bono Net, and Legal Aid of Nebraska, working jointly with AAAs and other community partners to develop and implement this tool. And we are, as I mentioned, we are now kind of out of the pilot and in the full-scale statewide expansion and rollout, and looking to continue to refine and support use of it on an ongoing basis. So what is the legal risk detector? Just in essence, you can think of it as a legal health checkup and referral tool that allows you to screen older adults for common legal issues and then easily refer them to Legal Aid of Nebraska. These screenings can take place in a variety of settings, over the phone, at home, or in community-based settings, and you can access the legal risk detector using any type of device, a computer, a laptop, or phone, whatever is most convenient to you. This tool is not designed to provide legal advice, and it doesn't form an attorney-client relationship between any of the parties here. It's really designed for use by networks of community partners, community outreach organizations, and in particular, people who are not lawyers. I'm not a lawyer. I come to this more from the technology and community outreach side, but designed for those who are not lawyers and not providing legal services, to help surface potential legal issues and connect those individuals with legal services. So this project is part of a national network of other states and legal aid organizations that are using the risk detector across the country. The program has been used everywhere from Florida to Idaho. We're working right now on a rollout in Utah and also in Minnesota. The kinds of community partners, in addition to AAAs, that are using it across the country include ombudsman programs, housing counselors, domestic violence advocates, community healthcare providers, veterans groups in certain states. So you're a part of a national network of organizations that are participating in this. I wanted to just provide a snapshot of the project status and some of the feedback we've heard so far. So the pilot began with two AAAs, ANOA and AON, in September of 2022. And a year ago, is actually a year ago tomorrow, we started the statewide expansion with a training on March 7th of last year. Um, During the first 6 months of the pilot, Legal Aid of Nebraska received close to 200 referrals, with 63 of those referrals indicating some type of legal issue, and they were able to provide some form of assistance in about 35. For the others during that pilot, they were able to help provide warm referrals and connect individuals with other helpful resources and services that might be able to address those needs. The most common issues that we've seen since we started rolling this out have been consumer-related issues, issues related to housing instability, housing conditions, housing affordability, and assistance with advanced directives. During that pilot stage, the average income for the users was a little bit over $1,300. And most individuals that were screened used either a landline or a cell phone that was not a smartphone. So we see ways in which the work that you're doing and this tool can really help bridge the digital divide for individuals that may not be able to go online, learn about where to get help with legal issues, or apply for online services. And during the pilot period, the average age of people screened, I think, ranged from about 45 to 98. During that pilot, we also did anonymous surveys with AAA staff from AON and ANOA, and the results were overwhelmingly positive. I included a snapshot of a few bits of the feedback we received there, and again, just really appreciated all of the feedback that I think folks in this group and others provided during that time to help us refine our tool, our outreach strategy, and training approach for this. It really was invaluable. It's benefited this project and also resulted in insights that we've been able to take back to the design and our work with other states using the risk detector as well. So we welcome ongoing feedback. We really consider you all kind of co-design partners in this work, and would love to hear your thoughts and ideas as the tool continues to be used in Nebraska. So how can the risk detector help? We know from many legal needs studies that often people that are experiencing an issue related to their finances or their family or their housing, think of those as kind of personal problems or personal issues. They don't always identify those problems as issues that might have a legal dimension and possibly a legal solution. We, along with many of you, also probably know that many of these issues that impact older adults often go unnoticed or unreported. And you all and the networks that and reach that AAAs have often go much more deeply into community and outreach settings than lawyer-driven services can alone. So you're really critical in this community justice kind of network ecosystem. We also know that many individuals often will turn to or express a concern or a need to a trusted service provider rather than a lawyer first when they're expecting an issue or experiencing an issue with a legal dimension. So the risk detector is really designed to help facilitate a conversation with older adults, kind of guide you through a conversation to surface potential legal issues without needing to understand those issues in depth. For any issues identified, it automatically and easily will help compile a report and facilitate an automated referral to Legal Aid of Nebraska. The tool also can help remove the stigma of contacting an attorney that we often see among a lot of people, but often particularly among older adults. And it can help expand access to preventative legal services across the state and help, I think, all of you and other community partners provide more holistic services to clients. So I'm going to turn it over to Taylor now, who's going to walk us through the mechanics of how to access and use the tool itself. And then we'll come back and talk about some recommended practices in administering it.
Hey everyone, thanks Liz. Okay, the tool can be found at a URL that I'll put in the chat after I'm done with this demo. I'm going to start sharing my screen so that you can see the tool. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Sure can.
Okay, great. The tool can be found at this URL, which like I said, I'll pop it in the chat after I'm done with the demo. Jean, do you have a landing page for the tool?
I
Or
am
do
not
people
sure.
just go directly to the URL?
I believe they
think they
go with
just go
that. Yeah, I
directly.
believe they just go the
Okay,
URL.
no problem. Just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything. Okay, so here is the first page you'll be at. It you can offer this description to the client that you're working with. This is a screening tool to detect potential legal issues in the areas of housing, debt, financial exploitation, healthcare, and abuse. And on the first page, you can see that the project is a collaboration of these partners. And if you click on these little links, you can see a description of the partners that built this tool. So you click begin interview. If you're in a place where there's not good internet connectivity, you can choose to have a paper interview with you on hand. This is where you would download the paper interview. You could print this off and have this with you. And then you can come back to upload that paper interview here. But if you're in a place with good internet connectivity, you can go through the tool online. So the first page, we're asking for the service provider's information. So if you were working with a client, you'd put your name and email here. You provide information about your organization. And then we jump into the first question about the client, which is important because it determines which questions show on the next screen. So if the client rents their home, you would select rent, owns, or neither, and then describe where the client lives. Both of these questions are important for the next questions that show in the housing section. So because I selected rent, these questions are going to be legal issues that renters tend to face. The next thing you're going to do is ask the client regarding your housing, are any of these statements true? And then you can read through each statement. And if the client indicates that any of them are true, select which one is true. And then if you'd like to provide any additional information that you think a lawyer might need to know, you can say the client agreed verbally to rent the apartment and is now being asked to leave, for example. So then in that case, you would select both of those. Consumer debt questions, same thing here, just reading through these issues with them. If none of the above are true, you can select none of the above. And then there's a financial exploitation section. And a healthcare concern section. And you might find that people have issues that span across areas. And then lastly, there's a 6 of 6 other concerns section where you can say, yes, there's something that the client is expressing that seems like a legal issue, but none of these got to it. And so I want to provide some additional details about the client's situation. On the next screen, you'll see a review of the issues that were selected and any notes you entered. And if the notes or the issues need to be changed, you can go back here or you can decide to proceed with the interview. At this point, you're going to ask the client if they consent to their information being sent to Legal Aid of Nebraska. And it would be excellent if you read this exact statement to the client. If you wish, I can transmit this report with your answers to Legal Aid of Nebraska. Legal Aid of Nebraska will review the report and contact you directly to see whether you are eligible for their free legal services. Until you are determined to be eligible and your case is accepted, there is no attorney-client relationship. Do I have your permission to send your report, which includes your information and answers to Legal Aid of Nebraska? And then at that point, the client can say yes or no. You also are, as a service provider, asked if you would like to receive a copy of the client's report via email, which we've found people like in order to keep for the client's file or make sure that there's a record of this interaction. And maybe you want to make sure that Legal Aid of Nebraska has followed up. Those are some instances why people like to have a copy. So you can say, let's say in this scenario, yes, the client consents, and yes, I'd like to receive a copy. After the client consents, then you will collect their information. If they don't consent, that's the end of the interview. They consent, so we're going to provide this information about the client so that Legal Aid of Nebraska can kind of have a more efficient intake process. And so we can understand the groups of people that this tool is helping. Important to ask the client if it's safe to leave a voicemail, and they will indicate yes or no. And then if it's okay to send a text message, that's also a question that's important. Important to make sure that the email address for the person is a safe email address. And then this is monthly household income. This information, income, and also the household member information is important for Legal Aid of Nebraska eligibility requirements. And then some of the stats that Liz was talking about to do with the digital divide, those are gathered on this screen and are helpful for the staff at Legal Aid of Nebraska for facilitating follow-up if they understand what kind of access this person has both to getting out of the house and also access to technology. So are you able to leave home? Yes, I can with assistance. Of just putting an example answer here. I have just a landline and we'll say I have my own means because earlier I said my son, and we'll say he's reliably driving me places. Do you need assistance applying for social services or public benefits program? This is also something that is good for Legal Aid of Nebraska staff to know. We'll say this person does not need assistance with that. The adverse party would be, in this case, we did a sample housing legal issue. So in this case, the adverse party would be the landlord. So we'll say, and then it's okay if you need to approximate the landlord's date of birth. If you don't know the adverse party, meaning well, the client doesn't know who the adverse party would be, or you're not able to kind of get to it, you can select unknown here. This will help Legal Aid of Nebraska be able to do a conflict check. And then once you hit next, there's an opportunity for you to provide any type of evidence or paperwork. You could take a photo with your phone, or you can just write notes about what kind of photographic or paperwork evidence the client does have, even if you choose not to upload anything. And then that's the end of the report or the interview. And now we've gotten to the report. You'll see at the top, it shows that it was interview completed by the help of this service provider for this client. So that's the first information that Legal Aid of Nebraska is going to look at for both eligibility and conflict check. And here again, the adverse party. You can choose to download the report from this page for your own files if you chose not to have it emailed to you. There's a PDF and a Word doc available. So this is what the PDF looks like, just like a copy of the report itself. Also, at the final page, you'll see that there's a reading of what level of risk the person is at for facing a legal issue. This person's at a high risk because they don't have a written lease and they're getting eviction threats. And also just because that there were 4 risk flags identified, that also goes into this reading of the risk level. There's also a resource list that can be shared with the client. It could either be printed, downloaded, and emailed to them. It includes all the types of services that are available to the populations that this tool was intended to serve. So it helps them kind of have on paper some more resources they could reach out to for different types of issues. And then it says that for the next steps, the report has been sent to Legal Aid of Nebraska, where it will be reviewed by senior staff members who will take appropriate follow-up action based on findings indicated here. And then that is the end of the tool.
Great. Thank you, Taylor. I can now talk about what happens after this. And
Thank
I'll
you.
pull my slides back up. Okay, great. So what happens after a risk assessment is complete? After you see that final screen that Taylor showed with the interview results, assuming the user has consented to the referral to Legal Aid of Nebraska, that report will automatically be packaged up and sent by electronic transmission to Legal Aid of Nebraska to review. And they will review the report, the flags that have been captured, and call the potential client back to complete an application for services. And based on what's gathered through that callback, the typical next steps are that either Legal Aid of Nebraska can help the individual and establish a full services attorney-client relationship, or if it's not a case type they can assist with, or if there's an eligibility or conflict issue where they're not able to help the person, they'll provide alternative resources, a warm referral, or brief advice and counsel where possible. As Taylor mentioned, you also can receive a copy of the report to facilitate your own tracking and follow-up. What we suggest when using the risk detector is that you use it kind of in accordance with your own referral practices and policies. You'll want to confirm that the contact information that the client provides is okay for legal aid to use when making that callback. If not, you can provide a safe mode of contact, or if appropriate, your contact information instead. And we just recommend that you use, of course, your professional discretion when determining if certain questions are appropriate to ask if another party is present during the screening process. It may be needed to follow up in private, or just through other means if the client has a particular concern about a family member or other individual who's present during this. A lot of this is reflected and integrated within the tool itself, but you will just want to make sure that the individual knows at the outset that they'll have the option of having their information sent to Legal Aid of Nebraska with their consent. That this is not providing an attorney-client relationship. It's really helping to identify issues or maybe benefits or other support that may be helpful to them that they're not aware of. we encourage you to do the holistic screening across all of the issue areas that are included on the tool. As mentioned, we have found in this project and in other risk detector projects that it really does help to surface issues and needs that are maybe unexpressed or unidentified, and that holistic screening can really facilitate that. But feel free to rephrase the questions in your own words based on your own understanding and relationship with the client. What settings can the risk detector be used in? It's a very adaptable tool, and I know that it's been integrated in care management services through AAA's of Nebraska. It can be used in home-based services, in individual and group outreach settings, in phone-based services, and also in clinics and special events. Um, it's really intended to be integrated in a wide variety of touch points with older adults, and hopefully is agile in that way. We'll just end with a link, a direct link to the tool. We'll also share this through the chat if we haven't already. And we really welcome your ongoing feedback about this tool, about your experience using it, and what you're seeing with your clients who are using it. We have benefited so much, as I mentioned, from the really thoughtful feedback in surveys and in past trainings from this group and your colleagues across the state in just prior trainings, and really welcome and invite that. Great. So I think that brings us to the end. I'll just pause there and open it up for any questions, comments, ideas. All right.
Thank you very much. This is really nice.
Great. Thank you, Jean. Thank you, everyone. It sounds like we can pause there, but don't hesitate to reach out to Jean. And if you have questions about how to use the tool or encounter any technical issues, we'll get those, and we're happy to respond to those. And again, welcome any suggestions or feedback you have about how we can help you adopt and integrate this in your work.
I do have a question.
Please, yes.
So when that gets sent into the legal aid, suppose that they decide that they're not going to be able to help the individual, will they send a letter, or will they call the individual, or how will they let that individual know that they're not going to be able to work with them on that so that they could explore other options?
Yes, thank you. That's a great question. And I don't think we have Anne from Legal Aid on the phone, but typically that's exactly what happens. If after that call back, if Legal Aid determines that they're not able to help the individual, they'll provide alternative resources, either by phone or through a letter that might be a warm referral to another provider that can help, or self-help support resources, or brief advice and counsel. So that's part of their typical kind of case handling procedures when they're determining if and what kinds of services they can provide. They'll close the loop with that individual. Great question. One of the other things that that I think the risk detector helps us with is actually, and our feedback loop with legal aid is, what are those issues that are being identified? If there are a lot of issues related to, say, consumer debt, or certain types of housing issues that legal aid can't help with, that's part of what we can begin to spot some of those patterns, and over time begin to see, are there other kinds of resources we might be able to provide, or might be able to facilitate access to through this tool if for some reason legal aid isn't able to assist. Great. Any other questions? All right. Well, it sounds like we can pause there, but thank you all again for your time today. Really appreciate the chance to meet with you.
Jane and Ben, I have a question. So have we figured out how to put it into Peer Place yet?
I don't, not to my knowledge. Do you know anything?
No,
Dean?
it would be if you are working with a client as part of a normal care management assessment and you're doing this as well, it would just be a care management unit. Yeah,
This is
so it
Mary
would,
Ann at ANOA, and
Mhm.
we have a peer place entry for the pro bono net screening. I don't know if that was because we were on the pilot, but we have a peer place entry for it.
Where's Carol?
Sorry, Cheryl, did you mean what Mary Ann's talking about in terms of a place to actually enter the data on a screen in Peer Place?
Well, we've had this discussion many times. Yes, but we didn't know because of time studies, how we were going to count this. Were we counting it as legal? Were we counting it as care management? Were we counting
Okay.
it as chore, housekeeping? And I don't know if
Gotcha.
that was ever, I know we were on that pilot and
Oh,
it
that's right.
changed every week.
Right. Well,
So I didn't know.
we just enter the units. We don't enter any of the information.
Right. But
Yeah.
I just didn't know
Okay.
if they had
Okay.
gotten it squared away to, are we putting it with care management? I just didn't know.
Okay, so Jean answered your question then.
I think so.
Okay.
I hope so.
Well, because we do it with med waiver, we do it with
Mhm.
anybody that walks in
Right.
our office, we could actually do this with, but I just didn't know if we have rectified the whole Peer Place issue.
Yeah, if the issue, I'm not, I might have limited familiarity with Peer Place, but if there are questions about from just a kind of a technical standpoint, you know, how can this be made accessible from other systems that you're interacting with? Happy to to be a resource on that. But I think Cheryl, part of what you're asking is also maybe a question about tracking and logging in addition to access.
Correct.
Mhm. Great. Great. Well, these are certainly questions we can kind of take back into our just ongoing support and implementation work and clarify anything and follow up as needed.
Right.
Great.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all so much. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks.